Hi everybody, Clint Reese, professional development trainer here, and I want to tell you a little bit about one of my favorite topics. It's a topic that has helped grow my training business, and it's one that I think is going to be supremely important, especially as everyone starts going back to work or whatever that looks like for everybody. There have been a lot of changes in the work environment. There have been a lot of changes in company culture. There have been a lot of changes in the way that people train, that people engage. There's just been a lot of changes. And something that will come out of this is that we will all need to be a little more adaptable. And as we go back into the office and we're starting to learn how to reintegrate ourselves with each other and figure out and get that human connection that we've been missing for so long, there's going to be kind of some fallout that has come from the past year and a half or whatever it is. And one of the ways that we can address that is through emotional intelligence. And that's the topic we're discussing today. Emotional intelligence is one of those things, we've heard it so often that we don't necessarily have a great understanding of what it is. I'm hoping I can clear up a little bit of that for you here today. Let's jump right into it. The study of emotional intelligence goes back pretty far, but in the terms of just understanding what it is, it's a relatively new understanding. It's a relatively new science, but there are some great books, great speakers, great presentations out there about emotional intelligence. You see these books on your screen. Anything by Daniel Goleman or Travis Bradberry, that'll get you started. If you get through all of their phenomenal work, there's plenty more where that came from, and you can start jumping into some of the other stuff as well. But read all those books, and you'll be doing just fine. But let's jump right into it. So the study of emotional intelligence kind of spurred from something that happened long ago with a man named Phineas Gage. Now, Phineas Gage was a railroad foreman, and so he was in charge of people that were working on the railroad all the livelong day. But what they had to do was clear land so that they could pull the railroad across the country. In order to do that, you have to make explosions. Phineas Gage was in charge of controlling those explosions. Put dynamite stick in the ground, you put the powder in the dynamite stick, put a tamping iron down on it, you hit the tamping iron down so that it's a measured explosion. Kaboom! You clear the land out of the way, you get a railroad, right? So that's the short version of it. The rest of his story is a little bit gruesome, so to play the part of Phineas Gage today, I will introduce you to Thor. So Thor, Phineas Gage, is working on the railroad one day. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He's got his pile of rubble, his rocks. He's got the dynamite stick down in it. He has the tamping iron. After he's put the powder in the dynamite stick, he has the tamping iron there. And he's getting ready to swing the hammer to start tamping down that powder to create that controlled explosion. Well, all of a sudden, behind him, there was a commotion on a rail car, and it caused Phineas Gage to change the glance that he had. He looked away from his object. He looked away from his target for just a moment, but not enough to miss. He had a glancing blow. It caused a spark to fly. The spark landed in the dynamite powder, and kaboom, it exploded. And when it did, it launched that tamping iron through the head of Phineas Gage. And when I say it went through his head, it went up under his cheekbone and out the top of his head, taking pieces of Phineas Gage with it as it went. This obviously wasn't a fun experience for him, but here's the kicker. Phineas Gage lived. And he didn't just live, he walked to his transportation to get him to the hospital. He sat up as he was taken to the hospital. He was talking, right? So clearly they don't make them like they used to, right? Now we get a hangnail and we need to go talk to our therapist. But he lived. And it was kind of a long recovery process, but eventually he got back to some semblance of life. He toured the country talking about his accident, talking about how he felt now. Now, what's interesting about it is he still had a lot of his what we would consider intelligence. The functionality of things that he did was still there. His work ethic was still there, but now he had less control over his emotions. Now, there's kind of varying levels of what that looked like, depending on what you read, but basically, he laughed when he shouldn't laugh. He got overly angry when there wasn't a reason to get overly angry. He would get sad when there wasn't a reason to get sad, or he would get overly sad. Either way, his personality had been altered. All right. So Phineas Gage. Now here's the kicker. Again, this is a picture of him, and if you see there, he's kind of got some dark shading under his cheekbone. That's where the tamping iron went in. That eye permanently closed, and obviously the hair combed over across the top there to cover up the scarring there. Here's what you may have not understood about that picture earlier. That he's holding with him there is the tamping iron. It wasn't some little bitty thing. It's about 4 feet tall. It weighs about 14 pounds. It's tapered at one end, which helped him survive, and it launched through his head. And those little cuts, those little marks that you see there, it was actually engraved. He had it engraved, and oh my gosh, he had it engraved, and what it was engraved with is the toughest thing you could put on it. It said, "This is the tamping iron that went through the head of Phineas Gage." I mean, what else would it say, right? But unfortunately, they also misspelled his name. So this 14-pound thing went rifling through his head, and they misspelled his name when they engraved it. They spelled it Phineas. So he goes through all this. They misspell his name. In other words, the next time you're at Starbucks and they misspell your name, let it go, right? No big deal. But this brought us years and years later to uncover the study of emotional intelligence. Here we see some of the X-Men displaying excellent emotional intelligence. For those of you that don't understand the action figure thing, pay attention to more of my videos. But emotional intelligence, very, very important. Right? It's that bridge between that frontal lobe where all the reason, ration, and logic comes from, and your limbic system where all your emotion comes from. That's emotional intelligence. Right? It's how we manage those two things. It's our ability to engage with our emotions, but use logic and reason to make the right decision or to take the right action. And people gifted in this skill propel themselves up the corporate ladder faster than people without. As a matter of fact, for every point someone is higher in an emotional intelligence scale, I want to say it's like $1,400 more per year in annual salary that they earn. That's how direct of a tie emotional intelligence has to success. So just think about that. Maybe maybe watch this a few times so you can make more money, right? All right, emotional intelligence. This is your brain, and this is your brain on emotional intelligence. That's not what I'm doing. There's 4 tenets of emotional intelligence. Now, if you read all those books I showed you earlier, you look at a bunch of websites, you might see more than 4. Some will put motivation or empathy into it as well. I prefer to keep those separate, just as far as things that I talk about. So I keep it with the 4 tenets of emotional intelligence. I'll run through those with you right now. The first one is self-awareness. This is knowing what you're feeling and why. This is not putting everything into good and bad. There's not only good and bad emotions. You can be mad for the right reasons. You can be sad for the wrong reasons. Okay, so there's a lot of gray area in that. And there's so many emotions that we can experience. There are over 3,000 words that describe emotions that a person can experience. And then there are still emotions that we experience that we can't necessarily explain. Self-awareness is becoming more aware of the emotions that you are experiencing, because we are emotional beings first. Everything that goes into our brain gets an emotion assigned to it before it ever makes it to the rational, reasonable part of our mind. So we are emotional beings. Self-awareness is getting in touch with that side of you and understanding how it works. Self-management is not controlling those emotions. It's knowing how to manage them. How to either use your emotions for the benefit of the situation, or making sure that you tamper down any emotions that you might have that might cause a detriment to that situation. All right, and then these next two skills are kind of the outward expression of those first two. So you have self-awareness, self-management. So the next thing is social awareness, relationship management. Okay, social awareness. It's not that when we hear social awareness, we often think of like, oh, that person's kind of awkward, and that's what we mean by social aware. That's not the case. This is knowing what those around you are feeling and why. Picking up on the way someone's eyebrows furrow, or the way someone looks down, or the way they kind of move their shoulders when you tell them something, and you get a sense of how that person is feeling, what emotion they are experiencing. That is social awareness. Relationship management, much like self-management, is taking that information and doing something with it. People that are gifted in this skill, it's that person that when they ask you how you're doing, you actually tell them. Instead of giving them that kind of automatic response, you tell them how you're doing. And they give you, whether they say anything, whether they don't, You walk away from that interaction feeling better. This is somebody gifted in relationship management. These people are phenomenal leaders. If you want to understand more about that, again, check me out, look at my website, send me a message. But these are your 4 tenets of emotional intelligence. Again, you'll see a lot where people add in motivation or empathy. I keep them separate. More videos on that later, or you can look them up on my feed. But there's great news about all of these things. If you feel like maybe you have some of these skills, but they're not really that good, or you don't feel like you're an expert in emotional intelligence, it's not like your IQ. EQ is different than IQ. Your EQ, your emotional quotient, your emotional intelligence, you can improve it. You can make it better. It's like a muscle. If you work on it, it improves. If you don't, it goes away. So there are ways that you can improve your emotional intelligence. We could talk for days and days about what those ways are. Here's a few that you can get started on. Meditation. Meditation is super important. Look at my videos about morning rituals. If I don't meditate in the morning, my emotional intelligence is less for that day. Journaling, exercise, getting proper sleep, not the number, getting the right type of sleep, getting that deep sleep. Reflective listening, deep conversation. Small talk. Small talk is huge. Your brain is just building a map for the way somebody acts when they're excited about something or when they're upset about something. Then you use that map to look at the rest of the world. So the more you talk with people, the more you interact with people, the more you understand people, then you understand emotional intelligence or you use your emotional intelligence to understand other people. So deeper conversation, better map, better emotional intelligence. People watch. Try to see what people are doing. See if you can pick up on emotions from somebody that you're not interacting with. That's a huge skill if you can learn that one. And then last, put down your phone. A phone is an incredible piece of technology. I love it. I think it gets too bad of a rap. I think they're great. What you can do with them is amazing. This video that I'm sending you right now has been edited with my phone. It will be broadcast to thousands of people with my phone. It's amazing. But so are people. Put the phone down every once in a while. Talk to people. People are cool. People are impressive. People have done some awesome stuff. So put down the phone, get to know people. Again, we can talk about these all day long. But those are a few to get you started. Work on a few of those things. You'll improve your emotional intelligence. You'll improve your career. You'll improve your life. So there's your basic rundown. This is Emotional Intelligence 101 with Clint Reese. I am your professional development trainer. I thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you around. Have a good day. Bye.